Hi, Shitar.
Hi, how are you, Meghna?
Good, how are you? Feeling better?
I have a second, what do you say? Second consultation with the orthopedic tomorrow again to get a second opinion. So I'm going to try out a couple orthopedics before I take a decision.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Tell me, how are you doing?
Good, busy, very busy. Thank God it's not raining though. Because it was supposed to
Driving
be.
is a hassle, right? But when it's raining.
Yeah, and showings also.
Well, that's what I meant.
Just give me 1 second.
Showing the homes and all that stuff is hassle.
I'll just be back. I have a phone call to attend.
Okay, take. No space in the house, so finally found a space.
I'm gonna hang up and then I'm gonna join back. Hey guys, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. The connection is flaky though, Ketan.
Hello, Ketan. Hello, everyone.
Hey Amit, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, good. Give me 1 second. So it's working now, finally. All right, we got it's 5:30, so looks like we have, so you guys know the ground rules. We got to get you on video, and we got to get you guys either muted or yep. And we're gonna wait a couple of minutes for everybody to join. Hopefully everybody's doing good. I'm gonna, as much as I want to talk today, I've had a sore throat and a slight cough. So I'm gonna leave all the talking to you guys. So hopefully that should be okay. And I see an echo, I hear an echo. Hey Darshna, thanks for joining. Meghna, Sandeep. All right, we're gonna wait a few minutes. We might have a larger crowd today. So and this is probably one of my favorite classes to do. I think I've done this over the years. I've done it for pretty much all of my clients. So, you know, if you've bought a house with me, you've probably heard this particular speech, I should say. You know, but other than that, it's probably one that it's very near and dear to me. This is how I started my real estate career, by doing this little home buyer seminar, as I used to call it. So and I'm going to share that with you guys because I think this will help you guys in the long term. All right, we're going to wait 2 more minutes for everybody to join, and then we'll get started. And it should not take more than 30, hopefully 30 to 45 minutes. So we're going to try to stay on track today if we can. All right. Hopefully everybody's still able to hear me well. So we'll go from there. Hang on, guys. And I'm going to share my screen here in a minute. Okay. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, good, good. And I think today we're going to actually do on presentation mode. So that way you don't get to cheat. You won't get to see the, all right, let's see what we got here. Okay, there we go. All right. So before we get started today, what I'm doing is, and I'm going to be, as we're going through this, I'm going to be taking sips just to kind of get my, my throat's just been dry. So I'm going to try to take sips as we go, just to, keep it moist and stuff. The first thing I'm going to ask you guys, all right, and I'm going to probably pick on somebody, maybe a few of you, to kind of give me an idea of how do you introduce yourself to your clients, all right? You know what, I'm going to take someone who's been around for a little bit. So let's go with, you know what, Ritesh, I'm going to put you on the spot, all right? So the question to you, all right, and I'm going to have you take it off mute in a minute. The question is, when you first meet and I'm going to do this a couple of times here today. So just to kind of give me a minute or 2 minute version of what you would do as far as when your client comes to you and says, or somebody refers you to a client, and how do you get started? Kind of give me an idea of what you do to get started.
Are you looking more like for an elevator speech, or if the introduction's already been made?
No, absolutely. A 2 minute elevator speech. Give me what you do. What would you do?
Hi, my name is Ritesh. I work in real estate. I help people buy and sell houses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, let's say I'm your customer, right? So I
Okay.
called you and said, hey, Ritesh, I just got your number from a good friend of mine, Pankaj Bhai. And, we just moved in from California, and we're looking for a house. Is this something you can help me with?
Absolutely. Well, what I usually like to do is I like to meet people face to face, and put a name to the face, so that way we can talk. And when we meet, I would like to go over your criteria and what exactly you're looking for, so I can tailor the search around what you need.
Perfect. All right. So you're gonna ask for the criteria, and you're gonna start that way. I'm gonna ask somebody else. All right. Let's see if there's any other versions of this. Does anybody else have a version? So Kavita, or who else? Hema, Venkat, Sridhar. Sridhar, you were with Keller Williams in Iowa, right? So I'm gonna ask you, Sridhar, I'm gonna have you put it off of mute and tell me, what was the elevator pitch, or how did how did they start you off when they said, hey, what do you need to do when you first meet your clients? So tell me what was that speech like?
Well, first, I would like to ask them, what is their price range, and then which location they would like to buy, and then first I would like to know what is their exact preferences. They would like to buy like a preferences like a school district or location and those kind of things, and then based on the search criteria, I'll put together all the information they're looking for.
All right. Very good. Very good. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. So now that you have the search criteria and so forth, let's go to Amit Huria. What would be your next step after that?
Hey, Ketan. So before that, normally nowadays, my speech has changed a little bit, right? So I kind of talk to them about, especially if it is a buyer, right? Do you understand? Like I tell them that I've been living in this Dallas area for 20 years. So things have changed a lot in the last 20 years, right? And I try to kind of put that thing first, is like, do you understand what's happening in the market? and what do you need to get to a house, right? I have two clients that somebody gave a reference and they talked to me, and I told them, like, if you're not willing to go 50,000, 40,000 above, and what does that mean in terms of, appraisal waiver and everything else? Is this even a right time for you to buy? Is this even a right decision for you to buy? And until I get to that, because I don't want to waste my time and writing contracts after contracts, which I've done also, and not able to basically help them get a house. So that is one of the things that I nowadays do, is I explain them what's happening in the market, because a lot of the time people think that they have heard, but they don't really understand. So that's one of the things I definitely do nowadays. I'll stop there before I go back to what you originally asked me.
No, but you know what? And I'm glad you actually pointed that out. Hey guys, one real quick favor. If you're not speaking, if you can, just put yourself on mute. And then when you do speak, just unmute yourself if you don't mind. So that would help a lot, guys. You know what, Amit, believe it or not, I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, because even though it's not part of the presentation, it was part of the back end of what we needed to talk about. And that is, how does the market look like today? And how do you shift? You're absolutely right. The way my speech, when it came to my first time home buyers, speech was completely different from what it would be today. And today, you're absolutely all right. Can we, just have I'm gonna try to see if I can get, sorry guys, give me 1 second here. Let me see if I can mute.
Why, Mom? I can't go to Kenny house. What did I do? I'm in the meeting. What happened?
Hey guys, just if you can, just mute your phones if you don't mind, please. It'll help a lot. Hang on. Okay. So anyway, what you said was spot on, Amit. That's exactly. Today's market is so different from what it was 6 months ago, or even 3 months ago. And it's basically called setting the expectations for your buyers. All right. They're in for a ride. They're in for a roller coaster ride. And make sure, before you go out there and spend, a week or 2 weeks or a month with your buyers, make sure this is exactly what they want to do. So be transparent from day one and let them know, hey, make sure this is exactly what you guys want to do. All right.
Jamai, look like I can go anywhere because I have a John Lon.
Is there a way to mute everybody?
I want to say that.
Does anybody remember how to do that?
I think you can mute everybody. You can mute everybody.
You can, right?
Yeah.
But if he does that, we won't be able
Where do you go to
to
do that?
unmute ourselves.
All right, guys, hang on. All right, there we go. I think I got him. All right, we're good. All right, so let's go ahead and go on with what we're talking about today. All right, let's see here.
Ethan, can I add something?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Meghna.
So one important thing which I thought, it depends on if it is a referral versus, you're meeting a client just, for the first time. I think it makes a difference because
Correct.
speech changes. That's what I feel. And
Yeah.
I'm on all those things that whoever said is right. But I think where they plug in is also important. I'm not going to start my speech saying this is the market today. I mean, yes, obviously they know that I am a realtor. I know they are my potential buyers. So what is understood, I usually will not really repeat, because I think first thing I'll approach is get to know them, because once they know me, and if I have to gain their trust, then this is not the speech I'll start with.
Yeah, it just depends, but it's definitely a plug-in in today's market, meaning
Absolutely.
you're gonna have to interject that speech somewhere. That's gonna be the most important.
That's what I said. It'll come way down the. It depends if it's a referral versus if it's a first-time home. Somebody you've never known or you don't know at all. Then it's going to change. Yeah, you have to put all these things and the right criteria. But I think maybe first, how you talk to them, or the first 2 minutes actually are very important, I feel. And if you can really make them understand that, you are the right, person that can
Person,
help
yeah.
them, I think that is what I think is the most important thing, I feel.
Yep, and absolutely. And you got to sell yourself, right? You got to be able to tell them that, hey, I'm going to do my best to get you a house in this crazy market, right?
Absolutely.
Let them trust you in being able to do that, right? If you think about the buyers in today's market, they're not that they're not looking for discounts, meaning cashbacks and all that stuff. They're looking for, hey, are you the realtor that's going to make me, is going to be successful in my transaction at the end of the day? That's all they care about, right? It's not, remember, the market has shifted today from what we used to call a negotiating market, right? Negotiating market is one where you're able to negotiate, you go back and forth and the deals are drawn that way. Today, it's more of an acquisition market. Okay. And you understand the difference between negotiating and acquisition. Acquisition is, hey, I want what everybody else has, or I want that house because that's the only house that's on the market, right? It's all based on supply and demand. There's a limited supply and a huge demand. So we've gone from being able to negotiate on contracts on houses to where your buyer's like, you know what, do whatever it takes to get me the house. All right. So just remember that. And as realtors, we have to shift our, the way, our style, the way we do things to accommodate our buyers today. All right. So let's get started. This is the first client communications and home buyer seminar. All right. So primary criteria. So there's two sets of criteria that I talk about when I first meet with my buyer. So here I am. And before anything else, always remember, if you don't have your IABS on your signature, you have to get your IABS presented to them at a minimum. And if you can get the signature from them, just the best way to do this is read through the IABS, not necessarily memorize it, but understand its implications. Okay. Who represents who, what it really means, right? And we'll go through that through the course, through the next 6-7 weeks of just, you'll hear me say that day in and day out is don't forget your IABS, don't forget your IABS. Here's what happens. Trek will fine you $1,000 if you have not presented the IABS to your customers. So either have it in your email signature, or number two, send it out during your first client communications, or number three, just send it out and make a note of when you mailed it out to them. All right, or discussed it with them. That's going to be the most important thing. All right, let's talk about the primary criteria. There's two sets of criteria, primary and secondary. All right, I am going to start calling on people. So whoever I can see is who I'm calling. So let's see, we talked to Vadivu, you're on this list, so you are next. Give me what you think, and there's no right or wrong answer. A lot of these are going to be different criteria. So, and I'll tell you, yeah, this is primary, this is secondary. So give me one criteria that you think is primary criteria when buyers come to you and ask you to start setting up a MLS search. So Vadivu, you are up. What do you think?
So I have to explain them what my duties are for them. First thing, what I would do as a realtor for them, what my services are. I think that's the main thing. I need to make them understand what they can expect out of me.
Okay. And then, so let's go to the next step, right? So when you set up the MLS, what pieces of information, there's 5 pieces of information, really 4 in the MLS and 1 is just, it's just there. But what would be 4 pieces of information? Just give me one where you would ask your seller, I mean, your buyers, your clients, say, hey, tell me something about what you're looking for.
From the buyers?
Yeah.
So
just one example.
The house information, like the size of the house, the area.
Perfect. That's it. Yep. Good. That's what I'm looking for. Yep. Square footage, size. Okay. So size exactly is part of the primary criteria. All right. I'm going to move on to somebody else. Srinivas, you're next. So we've talked about size. Give me another primary criteria.
The number of bedrooms.
Okay, so that's good. That would be a secondary criteria, and I'll explain that why. All right. So just remember that what you just talked about is secondary criteria. All
How
right.
about like area, which
Huh?
area, like like Austin or Leander or Cedar Park or
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Very good. So
location?
location is also part of the primary criteria that we're looking for. All right. Let's go to somebody else. Abhay, I see you on here. So we're missing two. So give me one more. So we got size, we got location. What else would be considered a primary criteria?
Price range. Price range.
Price range. Yep, price range. Very good. All right, so we got criteria number 3. So now we got one more that's technically missing. So I am gonna call out on, let's see.
I can answer now.
Let's see, who have we not called on this whole last 2 days? Gokul, since you're new, we're gonna put you on the spot. All right, so we got size, price range, location. What am I missing as far as another primary criteria? Are you there? Or, let's see. Can you hear, Gokul, can you hear us? I could see you off the mute. All right, one more. So let's go through.
Can you hear me, Ketan?
Yeah, I can hear you now. So we're missing one more. So which one are we missing?
So I was thinking more of price to start with, price, area, and location, size of the home. School district is one criteria,
So
but
school
I don't think it's a
district-
primary
so
criteria.
Interestingly, school district is going to be a secondary criteria. And I'll explain that to you guys in a minute. All right, so I'm going to go to the next person. All right, J. Paul, one more primary criteria I'm looking for. What are we missing? J. Paul, are you there? Okay, let's see, who else? Esan, since you're right on my screen right now.
Yes,
one more criteria I'm missing. Which one is it?
I believe, is it cash or a loan? Because right now it's very crucial that knows that the first.
In today's market, absolutely right. It is crucial. It is crucial, but it's again not the primary criteria. So I'm looking for primary criteria now. All right, one more person. Manish, you should know this because I've done this speech with you a couple of times, I think. I hope. So we got price, we got location, we got size. What am I missing? What am I missing, guys?
School district.
Nope, we already talked about school district. That's secondary.
Your build.
Year built.
Oh,
Bingo, bingo. Whoever
Age of
said
the
that.
house.
Who said
Yes,
that? Darshna, Ben? Darshna?
Yeah,
Very
I
good.
said age of the house.
Yeah.
You got it. Yep. So those are your 4 criteria, right? There's one more, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. When you're plugging into the MLS, your primary criteria is really what should be the driving factor through the whole process. And that is customers are looking for price or budget is probably one of the most important things, right? Location is, and keep in mind, these 4 criterias are not anywhere. I mean, there's not one that's over any of the other ones. Does that make sense? In other words, all 4 of them have to fit in perfectly. It's like aligning the stars to get, your number of homes that you're looking for in the MLS, right? Here's an example. If somebody tells me, I'm looking for a house in Frisco right now, that's 350,000. It's got to be less than 10 years old. And it's got to be at least 2,500 square feet or more. What are you going to tell them? Right? 10 years old, Frisco, 350,000 and 2,500 square feet. Go jump off of a cliff because you're not going to find that. There's no way you're going to find that, right? So there's expectations in this, okay? But that's when you're plugging these 4 in. So going back to Ritesh's conversation with his clients, he's talking to Pankaj Bhai and goes, okay, Pankaj Bhai, hey, tell me what you're looking for. Where are we looking? How much are we looking for? Are you looking for an older house or a newer house? And then, of course, the size. All right, we're going to get into this in a little bit more in a minute. Okay, so now the golden ticket goes to somebody who can tell me what is the 5th criteria that has nothing to do with the MLS or anything else. What's one more criteria that is so important that makes or breaks what you're looking for? Anybody know?
Direction.
The closing.
No, direction is also Vastu is secondary, believe it or not, because
What about closing?
no, not closing, not
How
closing.
about the family size?
No, which one?
Family size, like how big is their family, household?
Big is their family. Well, that goes back to the size, right? So
Size.
keep going, guys. Oh shoot!
How close is it to the
I just
highway?
took
For
it.
number of bedrooms.
It's a floor
Number of
plan.
Floor
bed and
plan.
bathroom.
Floor plan.
Floor
I didn't
plan.
mean to do that. I was trying to shift the screen to see who I can see and call on. Yes, of course. So you understand why the floor plan is so important, right? Right? Because today's market is not about, oh, I want to get the best priced house. It's about, hey, you walk in and are you comfortable in the house? Here's the challenge with today's market. And I'll tell you the truth. I have seen some really, really bad houses go for above list price, and I cannot understand it at all. How many of you have dealt with that today? When you have walked in, if you raise your hand, I'm going to call on you. So Hassan, guess what? You're going to talk to me about this. You walk in and you're like, okay, there's no way this house is going to go for above list price. But guess what? They already have 3, 4 multiple offers or whatever, right? And there's a perfect word for this that I'm looking for in today's market. What is today's market called? Does anybody know? And then Hassan, I'm going to come back to you.
Inflation.
Huh?
Inflation.
Inflation. No, there's another word. It's called a housing. What am I looking for? What is that
Bubble.
word? Bubble. Bingo. Today is, are we in a housing bubble? I would think so, right? Here's your homework for today. All right. And that is define what a housing bubble is. Okay. So when we meet up on Wednesday, I'm going to call on you guys and you're going to tell me what a housing bubble is. And let's see, here's where we're going to do it. Housing bubble. So that way you have it on the chat and you know. All right. So I want you guys to, after the class or whenever, you got 2 days to do this, tell me what a housing bubble is and explain it to me. That's your homework for today. All right, guys. So we've talked about the primary criteria. Let's go on. Let's see what the next, okay, the heart-to-heart discussion. I haven't gotten into the secondary criteria because I wanted to kind of break it up. Hassan, I know you talked about, so give me your story about the house that you walked into and what you thought.
Yes, approximately 3 weeks ago, I submitted an offer on behalf of my buyer, and I never thought that that house is going to go over asking price for 140K. I thought it's going to go over asking price for 50, 60, but not for 140. So, and then because I track all of the offer that I submit through the MLS, even that down the road, so I can find out how much I said to my client and how much is sold actually, so I can get a good feeling how the market is moving. And then I find out it's 140K above asking price. And the amount of the cash through the market is amazing. People, hedge fund managers from New York, Boston, Chicago, is a lot. People is bringing cash. And I think that's another thing.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people have a lot of disposable cash right now for some reason. Somehow, they have just a lot of money to play with or actually to add into their investment. And that's what it is. Absolutely right. And what you said, Hassan, you actually brought up a very, very good point. So I'm going to kind of repeat that to everybody here. Sure. So what he said was he goes back and looks at every offer that they make and sees what the house eventually sold for. All right. And that goes back to our conversation from last week. And that is understanding the market. Not only that, but understanding how to, going forward, help your clients. If he sees that one's 150,000 above this price in, let's say, South Lake makes sense. Now he's going to know that, when I'm submitting an offer for $800,000, I just need to know that I need to be at 950,000. Maybe 900 will get it. So you should do that. And that should be part of your steps on understanding the market is go back to every offer you made, go back in the MLS, look up the sold price and see what they sold at. So just make that note to yourselves and make sure you're doing that. So thank you for doing that. All right.
Hey, Ketan, one quick question here.
Go ahead.
You mentioned to check the MLS, right? So when someone sells the property, when they change the status in MLS, I understand they have to enter the price, what price they have sold it, but there is no checks that whether they are putting it the right amount or not, right?
You know what? That's a good point, but there is. according to the MLS rules, you have to be truthful. As a real estate agent, you have to be truthful about the data that you're supplying. Why is that? It's because the appraisers need to know how to appraise the house down the road. So being truthful across the board on your sales price. And if you, because, and I don't know if you guys know, I'm actually part of the MLS committee here at CCAR. I'm actually also joining the MLS committee at Actress, which is the Austin Board of Realtors. And one of the main reasons I'm in those committees or want to do that is because I want to understand, where they're taking this. Now, the good thing is I can explain to you guys what the reasoning behind it is. They're actually, and Sridhar, I know Rakesh, you guys are on this. Jaypal, you guys are on from the Austin group. I just sent you guys that email, right, from Actress. And what is it all about? It is about the fact that the MLSs are now going forward, whether it's CCAR or Netris or Metrotix or anybody, right? They're going forward with enforcing fines. They don't do it right now. They're going to start doing that. So if you put something wrong in the MLS, they might potentially fine you. So just be careful. But that's a good point. They are supposed to be truthful. That's the right answer.
Right.
But right now, a lot of people are submitting the wrong information.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sad.
We see it.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're just putting it. So there used to be a clause where you could put down, it's called the Z, like the character Z, the alphabet character Z. And Z basically meant, I'm not going to disclose the price. And so this was about 10 years ago. And all the MLSs came back and said, no, that's not fair, because the information about the price is needed in order for the appraisals and the market, for other realtors to understand where the market is, right? So, and if you guys are seeing that, and obviously we don't want to call out another realtor, but if you have that situation, just let me know. I don't mind taking it up to the MLS boards that we have. Okay. And that's another thing, I know we're going on a tangent, but that's another thing I do want to talk to you guys about is start thinking about volunteering, whether it's local boards, MLSs, or whatever. All right. So let's go on. So here's the heart-to-heart discussion that you want to have with your clients, right? Be honest, transparent in all your communications. Okay. Don't be afraid to tell them the truth. So in other words, when they tell you they want a brand new house for $500,000 in Frisco, let them know that's probably going to be a stretch. You can run a quick search, right? It'll take you less than, and we're going to run a quick search if we have the time. We'll run one, but run a quick search and just pull up, 2020 and above on the year built under 500,000 and click on City of Frisco and do single family detached, right? So you need 4 criterias. Unless you're looking for Frisco ISD, do Frisco ISD if that's part of your criteria, and see how many houses come up. It'll take you less than 3 minutes to do that. And you can easily take that back to your buyers and say, hey, I just pulled it up, while you're talking to them, and say, hey, there's nothing in the market for that. You don't have to tell them there's no way you're going to get this. You can just say, hey, there's nothing there. So let's readjust the criteria. It goes back to that primary criteria. All right. So be honest. Buyer wants a $350,000 house that's 1 to 5 years old. It's just not happening. Not in Frisco. You see what I'm saying? Now this is coming back, probably a couple of years ago, but now obviously even 500,000 may not get you there. All right. The 5 criteria that we talked about, it's not really 5, it's 4 criteria, because the floor plan is not a particular criteria. It's just, you have to like the house. The 5 criteria that we have to fit into what? It's called the MLS cert, right? When you pull that up, when you pull up the listings based on the criteria that and I'm going to put somebody on mute. I'm not sure who that is. Hang on, guys. I don't see it. Okay, thank you. Somebody already did. Excellent. So when you pull up these 4 criteria, how many, and I'm going to call on somebody. Hey, Ma, I'm going to call on you. So what's a good number of homes when your buyer, when Pankaj Bhai comes back to Ritesh and says, okay, I'm looking for, let's say he's got realistic criteria, and real estate criteria would be, under 700,000, brand new, 3,500 square feet, Frisco. How many listings do you expect to pull up? What would you think?
sort of depend upon the area, I would say, and what criteria we are trying to match it. But I would say, looking at current market, I'm not expecting more than 15 to 18 houses.
Very good. Yeah, I was going to say about 10 would be okay. 15 gives them too many choices to go back and forth on, right? What I do nowadays is, so here's the difference, right? And that number has gone down year over year over year, meaning the reason is because there's just not inventory. When I used to first do this home buyer, seminar with my buyers, I would say, oh, you know what, if I can pull 20, 25 houses, great, we'll go look at 15 of them. And that's what I used to do. Now, you want them to make a decision after 10 homes. Does that make sense? You don't want them to keep spinning your wheels and taking your time. And next thing you know, every week you're going to look at 4 or 5 houses, and all of a sudden you've been at 25 houses and they still haven't made a decision, right? So, and the most important piece of this is when you look at the first 2, 3 homes, make sure you're taking notes to say, okay, here's what they like, here's what they don't like. And pictures can only give you so much information, right? But let's say, for example, you walk in, it's a beautiful house and it's got 10-foot ceilings. It's got low ceilings, right? In the family room. At that point, if they've made a note or if they said, oh, I didn't want low ceilings, make sure when you're looking at the pictures of the next 5 houses you're going to show them, that you don't pull up homes, because they're going to give you the list without understanding what those pictures look like. Hopefully you can see it and see that, oh, I can see where the TV hang is, you can see where the fireplace is. And, oh, this is a 10-foot ceiling home again. Then you go back to them and go, hey, Pankaj Bhai, do you really want to see this house, or can we switch it out for something else? Does that make sense? So it's these heart-to-heart conversations you have to have with your buyers. Go ahead, somebody. Okay. The next one is, so the real estate criteria today, we just talked about that, right? I think we got one more. All right, no worries. So the real estate criteria today, so I'm going to give you 3 cities and I want you guys to give me the examples. So J. Paul, I'm going to put you on the spot for Cedar Park. What's a realistic criteria for me to pull 10 houses in any area in Cedar Park? J. Paul? Are you there? Let's go to, hey, Rakesh, welcome back. I'm going to call on you. Are you able to talk?
Yeah, probably too much of background noise.
No worries. Go ahead. So tell me what's realistic in Cedar Park today to pull 10 houses. Give me an example.
I would say 2,500 square foot, 600, obviously 1 stories, or 1 or 2 stories. Size. What am I missing?
No, that's good. And the age, how old would that house be? So if you're looking for a 2,500 square foot home in Cedar Park, would I get a 5-year-old home? Would I get a 10-year-old home? Or
I would say 15.
Cedar Park is pretty new. So what do you think?
I would say 15.
Big up. So under 600, 2,500 square feet, under 15 years old, and in Cedar Park, you got the location, right? So very good. But do you realize what you just did for me? You gave me what I would call price per square footage, right? At the end of the day. Let me see what we came up with. 2,500 square feet is $240 a square foot. All right, so I'm going to take it to the different angle for one of our Dallas folks. Let's see, who have we not called on? Sandeep, I see you here. So I'm going to call on you. What do you think is the average price for a house in Plano today?
Depends on the size, right?
So give me, so now one thing you know about Plano is, are you going to find newer homes or older homes in Plano?
Older homes. But I think it'll be over 150, 150 to 200 maybe.
So I would say you're pretty close. We've put a house on the market that's $192 a square foot. We put one that's $200 a square foot. 20 years old and so forth. So I would say comfortably, we're looking at probably anywhere between $175 and $200 a square foot. Cedar Park is $240 a square foot. Anybody want to take a guess at Frisco brand new homes? Give me an idea of what the price point is for brand new homes in Frisco. right now?
Like around 750.
750, but what's the price per square footage?
It's probably 210, 215.
210, yeah, easily $200 a square foot, right?
It depends also to the extra feature.
Yeah, $180 to $190 at a minimum, right? Because if you think about it, okay. And I'll give, thought I had muted somebody. All right, give me 1 second. Let me mute one more person. All right, there we go. So right now, Frisco, reasonable, and you guys have seen the emails I'm sending out with the homes, right? Brand new homes where, you know, it's 3,200 square feet and $630, right? You've seen those matinee homes and new synergy homes and all that stuff. So you're looking at probably about $180, $190 a square foot. And you have to understand that. You have to know what the market's doing. All right, next one, educate your buyers. Here's the thing, I see what you want, but I'm not going to be able to get that for you. And it's okay to tell them that, right? So that's going to be very, very important. And if there's not any inventory that meets their criteria or their wish list, make sure they adjust their information. And the way to do that, so what I do is, you know, you can do it on a Zoom call, you can do it on a phone call, right? And ideally, you want to be in front of your MLS when you're talking to them and saying, hey, let me go ahead and just pull the criteria up and see what we get. If you're not, you're going to pull it up, you're going to set up a Sage search, and you're going to go through that process anyway. And let's say you only pull up 2 or 3 houses. Guess what? Once you show them those 2, 3 houses, you don't have anything to show them until the next one comes on the market. And when that next one comes on the market, you know it's a rush to get the highest offer. So at that point, it goes back to what Amit said earlier, set those expectations. All right. Remember, the cost of land and construction goes up the closer you get to the city center. All right. So I used to draw a map when I used to do my presentations, and I used to show kind of where all the houses in a certain area, how old they are, because you know that right now, like Plano, homes were built, majority of the homes were built in the 1990s, 80s and 90s, really. When you look at Frisco, majority of the homes are built in early 2000, mid 2000s, 2010, 2015. You still have new homes being built in Frisco today. Cedar Park is a perfect example of homes that are probably less than 15 years old, because that whole area of Cedar Park, Leander, it's all pretty much brand new. What's the new cities in Dallas that you can think of? What would you call a community or a city today, a region?
Eagleville, Van
Yeah.
Alstyne, Hunter.
Yeah, those are all newer cities. But when we're talking about Prosper, Salina, how old do you think the maximum house is in Prosper and Salina? What do you think?
5 years, 5 to 8 years.
5 years, 5 years. If you pull up houses in Prosper and Salina today, you'll notice that there's nothing that's more than that's less or older than 2015. And just do that search on MLS. Again, something you need to know if you're in real estate. You have to understand the market. All right, now we're getting into the secondary criteria, which we've already been talking about because we've already talked about it. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of start showing through it, right? The yard is important in the sense that not every, and here's where the secondary criteria differentiates from the primary criteria. With the primary criteria, that criteria is set. It's static for everybody. Everybody needs price point, location, age, and size. All right. Because if you have empty nesters, you're not going to need 3,000 or 4,000 square feet. What are you going to need? You're going to need 2,000 square feet. You know, if you have a younger family that's just starting off and they're going from an apartment to a house, they're not going to need 4,000 square feet. What are they going to need? They're going to need a single story, maybe 2,000 square feet. So that's where that size comes in. Here's the secondary criteria. Not everybody. So this is where everybody differs, right? Yard is one of those things where if you're coming from the Northeast or you're coming from Chicago, you know, the last thing you want to do is have to mow a quarter of an acre or a half an acre of land, right? So you might go for, you know, just a smaller yard. But what's happening in today's market? So tell me about today's market. Anybody want to chime in when it comes to the yard?
Bigger lot.
Bigger lots. Very good. Yep. Everybody's looking for a bigger lot. You know, what's interesting is how many of you have gotten calls from buyers that are coming in from out of state and the first thing they're asking for is, I want a house with a big backyard, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for, right? And so that's a shift. It's a paradigm shift from the markets 2 years ago, or even a year ago, right? So COVID has changed certain things. House orientation. Who is house orientation important to?
Mostly Indians.
Desi community.
The Desi community. There's also another one that's it's important to. Did you know that
Chinese and
Chinese? Very good. Yeah. What's the orientation for Desis typically is what? It's either north,
northeast or
north or
northeast.
East.
yeah, yeah.
And then for the
Some prefer
Chinese,
south.
it's south.
Yeah, for the Asian, the Chinese, it's south facing, right? What's a common denominator for both of them that you did not know? It's part of the Feng Shui, but it's also part of Vastu for the Indian.
It's east mainly.
No. I'm not talking about the orientation.
Oh.
Now I'm talking about a actual placement of a home in front of.
Rectangular lot you need.
The rectangular lot is very good. Yes, exactly.
No, it's
You need
square lot, right? Mostly.
no, rectangular or square. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be oblong or different angles and stuff like that. And one of the things we're looking for is it could be narrow in the front, but it can be wider in the back, right?
Back,
But
true.
but did you know that a T intersection is not something that either one of the cultures look for? And pretty much all the cultures do not like T intersections.
I just learned that with one of the lots in Wimberley.
Yeah.
Do you know the reason? Do you know the reason?
I never had a chance to look at that, but you know
What was that again?
The T intersection.
So here's what I was told by one of the Asian lady who happened to be there. She says that the T joint is basically a dead end something.
Exactly.
And then all the bad chi is not good for your house. That's what she said. And I says, okay, I'll trust you. I won't look it up.
Did not know that. I was actually going to tell people to go ahead and find out for me or find out for the group why, what's the relevance of that T intersection. But I think Manish, you already did it for us.
Yeah,
That's
I can add a little bit more on that.
Oh, please, go ahead.
So basically the road that's coming towards the house, that's the energy it's bringing along on, and it's kind of boomeranging on the house. That's why it's a dead end. It's taking all the energy of the road.
Yeah, it's a negative energy. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, that's
So
the key.
So
it's only house that is recipient at the T. That's the one.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
But the,
You guys.
The
need to
other
do that.
mechanical problem is like when your street cars are going on, that lights are reflecting in your bedroom. If that bedroom is facing there, or study room is facing,
Yeah.
and while you're sleeping in bedroom, then it's a disturbance.
but the house next
with you.
but house next to that is okay, right?
Yep.
Yes.
The house next to it is completely okay. Yeah.
They also say accidents might happen if they come straight.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
there's, believe it or not,
that
there's a
was-
house in Murphy that it's right off of Renner and Murphy Road. It's been hit 3 times, either 2 or 3 times. I mean, literally somebody's actually banged right into the house twice and broken the brick
Oh,
walls
wow.
and everything. So it's just, it's a very tough situation to be in. All right, let's
Yeah,
go
but
on.
these are the criterias are killing because people now, one of the criteria they ask for in the MLS, and I don't know if that is true, but they say, can you find me a north or east facing house? Wow. I don't know until
Somebody
I
did
look it
mention
up
it.
on the map.
Yeah, somebody did mention it last time. There is a way to pull it up, but here's the thing, just ask them to pull it up on the map. Look at the map, and then, based on the map, if you're pointing up, it's north. If you're pointing to the right, it's east. Pointing to the left, it's west. And if you're pointing down, it's south. Just let them know that that's the best way to do it. And here's the thing, we went into this situation just recently where it was like a referral that we provided to one of our agents, and the orientation was not ever discussed. So we saw like 4 or 5 houses, and then all of a sudden they come back and say, oh yeah, we don't want south facing homes. So it's one of those things to make sure to get those criteria to them beforehand, so that way they can tell you, hey, is Vastu important? Is a big yard important? What about school districts? Now, why did I put school district in the secondary criteria as opposed to the first criteria? Can somebody tell me why? I would do that.
Because not everybody is looking for the school district, right? The kids may be gone.
Exactly. I'd say probably 70% that's important, but you know, it's important to culturally, it's important to us. It may not necessarily be important to everybody. That's another thing to remember. All right, next one is nearby amenities, number of bedrooms, bathrooms. So this goes back to, I don't remember who it was that mentioned bedrooms and bathrooms, but bedrooms and bathrooms are part of that secondary criteria. You know, nearby amenities can be, hey, is there shopping in front, or is there, you know, restaurants nearby, or, you know, where's the nearest Walmart, you know, or Target, you know. Another one is the updated kitchen, cosmetic enhancements. What do people look for today? They want, like, and this is a good example, you know, what's the color scheme? And you can see the cyclical portion of it now, right? The grays and the whites used to be the in thing 15, 20, 30 years ago. And then it went to the earthy tones, the browns and the light browns and the beiges and all that stuff. We're back to what? We're back to that gray and white color schemes. Okay, so it will last maybe 5, 6, 7, 10 years. And then, you know, it'll probably go back to, you know, who knows at that point what the color schemes are going to be, but always be aware of those color schemes. One thing you'll notice today, and especially whether you're a buyer's agent or a seller's agent or listing the house, is a lot of them, you know, will update their home before they even put it on the market, because they know that unlike the markets past, okay, unlike the markets past where, you know, when you spent, you know, 100%, you know, you would only recover 70% of the cost of the upgrades. What do you think you're going to recover today? And Manish, I'm going to put you on mute, my friend, so I can call somebody. Abhay, I haven't talked to you, and you're just smiling there, so you're my person I'm going to call on. All right, so the question is, in a typical normal market, and I'm talking about a normalized market, if I spent $10,000 on my sales price, I would recover $7,000. What do you think the recovery amount would be today? Take a wild guess.
10,000, you said you would recover 7,000. And today?
Yeah, today, what would that be? Any idea? I'll give you a hint. No worries. I'll give you a hint. How much more than market value are we paying today in today's market?
At least 50 to 60K.
No, but what's the percentage? Maybe 5, 10, 15%?
Yeah, probably between 5 and 7.
Yeah, so which means that when you spent $10,000 on your upgrades today, you're going to get 10% over that. So you're going to get 110%. That's the difference. And that's what the market is all about. So if you have a seller that doesn't want to do anything, it's actually hurting them than actually enhancing their market. Does that make sense? Because when they spent that $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000, chances are, if the market continues to sustain what it's doing, they're going to get 110% of that value back. All right. So remember that. If you don't remember anything else from today's conversation, remember that when you talk to your sellers next time. All right. And then the last portion of this is, we're almost done, guys. Probing questions, right? So when you're talking to your buyers, one of the other things you want to talk about is, where do they work? What do they do? Are they doctors? Are they, engineers? Do they own a hotel, that they got to go back and forth to every morning? What is their timelines, right? That's very important, right? You want to find out, from them. Let's say, you get a buyer that's not going to be here for another 6 to 9 months or 12 months. Well, you need to know that, because what they're going to see today is not going to be there tomorrow, right? So you have to understand that, and you have to explain that to them. If they're leasing and their lease is not over until, they call you today and their lease is not over until February of 2022, you know what? The only thing you can tell them is, hey, you know what? The best thing to do is maybe go look at some open houses, kind of get an idea of what you're looking for. In the meantime, make sure that they stay in touch with you. And the best way to do that is set up an auto email, right? How many do not, if you do not know how to do an auto email, you need to call me so I can show you how to do that. That is extremely important in the MLS. You have to understand how to do an auto email. Hopefully, I don't know if they taught you that in the MLS classes. but they should have. And if they have not, it's one of the things we do with
They
the
did.
orientation.
They did.
They did?
Yeah.
Good, good, good. All right. So at least they got you guys going with the auto emails and the saved searches and stuff like that. So that, the reason you want them to, you want to do that, whether they're looking 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road or 12 months down the road, is because that way, guess what? Your information stays with them every day, every time they get that email. And that is continuous drip marketing. All right. So that's extremely important in today's market.
One other thing they taught in the class was how to look up the direction of the home.
Oh, good, good. Okay. So they did show you guys how to do
They
that.
show you how to look it up in
Yeah.
the MLS maps.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take that class because I can probably pull it up on the MLS and remember you got helpful topics. So Kavita, thanks for that. But you got helpful topics on the MLS. So always go back and rely on your video tutorials and your MLS classes to kind of find out how to do this. Yeah. All right. And then let's see. So how often do the kids, so here's the other one. Like, let's say you have an empty nester that wants a 4,000 square foot home, but that's where you want to ask them, hey, do you really need the 4,000 or, do the kids come over very often or how's that? So you can always kind of probe that and ask them the right questions, right? The reason they're moving, what's the reason for buying or selling a home, right? You want to ask them these questions as well. And then the length of expected home ownership. That means, you know what, let me know how long you plan on living there, because that kind of changes the direction of what you may or may not want to do down the road. So these are some other probing questions that you always want to ask your clients. Anyone else think of anything else that, as far as probing questions that you can ask clients? You guys can open it up. So we're going to go ahead and open it up. If you have any questions, this is the last slide, but hopefully this.
Don't you think if we start asking probing questions, that might be a deterrent to the buyer, that we are actually contradicting them in a manner that they might not like?
Well, you only ask them. So these are just generic probing questions, right? In other words, you want to know, what their timelines are. You have to know what their timelines are. In other words, you don't want to be just, you don't want people that are just looking. All right. You will get that. Believe it or not, you will get that 30% of the time. They're just looking. Another reason is, what's the reason? But here's the thing, right? And some of the probing questions may not, will align with what they're doing. In other words, if somebody's relocating, then you know that they're moving, here, right? But here's the other thing is, if they're relocating and they don't know when they're going to relocate, or they haven't put their house on the market yet in Chicago or in Minnesota or wherever they live, then it's like, okay, and that's fair to ask. Is your house on the market, or what are you planning on doing with the house in Minnesota, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. And the questions are there for you to understand better as far as what their timelines are, what their objective is, what their home buying objective is. All right. Anybody else think of anything else that we've missed in this conversation?
Yes. In this market, it's very, very important to find out what is their flexibility on cash flow, because we are overpaying and overage is paying out of pocket.
So I just have one question, Ketan. It's not about the probate question or anything, but at what time we should ask buyer to sign the buyer agreement?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So let me go back to what Darshana said about the appraisal. So that's actually a really, really good statement. And I think it was Darshana that mentioned that. Absolutely. And this goes back to what Amit had said earlier. Just make sure that you align with their understanding of the market and that they are going to have to come up with more cash than. Now, here's the thing. If they only had 20% or 25% to come up with, then they're going to have to shift their down payment down to 90-10 loan to value, right? So just remember that. Those are certain things you have to do. Now, Hema, going back to your question, basically, sorry, what was your question again? Sorry, cheers.
About the buyer rep.
The buyer rep.
Like,
So the buyer rep agreement, right? So here's my take on this, and everybody has a different way of doing things. My challenge has been, since I started real estate back in 1995, there was maybe 5 or 6 DISI realtors. So my business was built entirely on referrals, right? Which means that when they came to me, they already knew who I was. They had the expectations. Believe it or not, I never had any one of my buyers sign a buyer rep agreement. The difference is today's market, you have to have a buyer's rep agreement. That's the difference. There's two ways of doing it. If it's a referral, meaning that if it's somebody that you know that you genuinely trust will stay with you through the whole process, then you can kind of sway it one way or the other and maybe not have to get a buyer rep agreement signed. But if it's somebody you don't know and you're not comfortable and you know that they're gonna do a switch and bait on you, meaning they're gonna use your expertise, they're gonna use your groundwork and then turn around and buy it from somebody else. Those are the times you want to, and the only way to know that is as you kind of, you're asking the probing questions, you're asking them about timelines, you're asking them, just make sure that, and the only way is as you continue to not only communicate with them, but build that relationship with them. I would say, here's what I would do in today's market. Give them a couple of freebies, meaning show them a couple of houses one day, whether it's 1, 2, 3 houses. At the end of the day, it's still giving you an experience that you need, right? But then let's talk about the second day or the third day. By then, just say, hey, you know what? I know we're going to spend some time doing this. I got it. Our brokerage requires that we get the buyer rep agreement signed, and then just send them the buyer rep agreement. Just send it to them for review. And then, maybe the next time around, just ask them, hey, have you had it signed yet? Or do you want me to, or send it to them through zip forms, so that way they see it and they can initial and sign it as well at the same time. So that would be the only thing I can, but absolutely you do need buyer rep agreements in today's market because there's so many realtors out there. And it just becomes a challenge at the end of the day. All right.
Ketan, I don't do much of buyers and sellers. I'm mainly doing it for myself. But whenever I do tell them, if it's a buyer, that if we don't get this sign, I am technically representing seller.
Yeah.
So if you want me to represent you and have your best interest in my mind, then we have to sign this before we move forward.
Yep, and that's a good way to do it. That's a very good way to do it.
How can you tell that to a buyer that you're representing the seller?
Well, it's the way the IABS is it's basically unrepresented at that point. It's not,
Yep.
So you want them to sign it, right, one way or the other, right? But now whether it's saying you represent the seller or just saying, hey, I want to take, the best way to do it is say, I want to make sure that I have your best interest in mind, and that's probably the best way to explain it.
Yeah, I agree because I usually don't even bother. If they don't sign it, I don't bother to even go for the first appointment. The reason being is if I'm taking that level of commitment from you, you should reciprocate the same thing to me.
Bingo.
Yep, very good, very good. Yep, all right. And we are on.
I need to share something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Get pre-approval before we show the house, just want to know whether.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get those pre-approvals before you show the house. That's probably, and especially in today's market, because guess what? Every seller listing agent is looking for that. That's one of the first things they're looking for is that pre-approval.
Yeah,
So
not even pre-qualification. It has to be pre-approval.
Yep, absolutely.
And then the second thing that I would say, and I just had to tell the other agent, is that, the option money, the way it used to be paid to the sellers directly, it's no longer the case. It has to go through the title company. A lot of you probably may not realize, but I had to tell one of my buyer's agent this morning on one of my listings.
Yeah, and that's true too. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, so whether it's the the pre-approval letter, just a lot, and seller's disclosure. Make sure you get your seller's disclosure signed off by your buyers as well. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Any other questions, guys? Hopefully this helped.
I have a question. So we discussed about the floor plan. So many of the buyers, they like to see the floor plan, but it's not in the MLS. Not many listing has that. So is there any way to get the floor plan? Do we have to contact the listing agent or?
And even the listing agent will probably
might not have it.
Yeah, they're not going to spend the time to go, ask the sellers for it a lot of times. Now, once in a while, you might get lucky with a seller who's got a picture of it, and they'll go ahead and give that picture to the listing agent, who will then turn around and put it on the MLS, right, as a JPEG or as a picture. One of the other things is
some city. Sorry to interrupt you, Ketan. Some cities have it available. Like Flower Mound, you can go and download by address. Some cities share it on their engineering sites. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's good to know, Gokul. Thank you. No, that's absolutely.
Where do you find it? On the city website, is it?
Right on the city website. Again, for Flower Mound, we call it as e-track it. So different cities may vary. So there you can go and check every approval the property went through, starting from the day the home was built. So it's public information. Yeah.
So you guys know how the square footage and how that whole process works, right? Basically, what happens is when you guys contract on a house, a new construction, right? Then you know how the builder says, I got to go get permits. Well, those permits are basically based on the floor plan, what they're doing. And remember when builders say, I need to know exactly what structural changes you're doing right now, because that's what they need to apply for the city, right? So they have the permits, they have the floor plan, they have everything ready to go, and that's what they send over to the city. And that's what Gokul's talking about. Is probably that's a great thing if Flower Mound is doing that or has access to the previous ones. They're probably uploading all of that information back into their site and then resending it or redistributing it publicly. That's really awesome. I wish more cities would do that. A lot of the bigger cities, it would be almost impossible to manage. But smaller cities where the housing population is 4,000, 5,000, or 10,000, that's probably doable. Yeah, that's a good point. Now the other thing is, if you wanted to take it one step further, if you know the builder that built the house, you can go to their website and kind of pull up the address and see if not the address, sorry, the square footage, and see if that same floor plan is available on their website. A lot of times, especially on the newer communities, in the last 5, maybe 10 years, they would have that information. Now, I've done that before. So that's one way of doing it as well. That is extra work on you, but it's doable.
All right. Ketan, I have a question.
Yes, Rakesh, go ahead.
So apart from on the first meet, on the first talk on the phone, apart from IABS and presenting ourselves really honestly, what sentences or what words we can use so that we can sell ourselves in the first 5 minutes of we talking to the, I know in this market it's different, but in generally.
Yeah, just one, give, and here's the thing, you're new. If you're new, it's a little harder to do that. Like, just say, hey, really want to help you guys out. Would love to work with you. I've been doing this for a year or 2 years or 5 years, but don't let that fool you. I've had a passion for real estate for the past, 20 years that I've, been around. Give them a little bit about you. Give them what we call a 2-minute elevator speech, saying, hey, this is one of the reasons I'm in real estate, right? So let them kind of get to know you. That's going to be the most important thing. And then from that point, saying, hey, do you have any questions before we get started on kind of identifying the criteria? Does that make sense? The first few minutes really should be about you at the end of the day. What got you into real estate? And what you may want to do is just jot these questions down, saying, hey, what would I ask myself? Why did I get into real estate? Say, one of the reasons I'm in real estate is because I have a passion for, and I used to tell this, and that's actually a good point. I used to tell people that when I was younger, right? And I'm talking about, and I tell this story to everybody, and you're welcome to use it, whether it's true or not. So here's one of the things I used to tell them is when I was younger, right? This is back in New Jersey.
Hey, Ketan, I thought,
had a lot of my.
Hey, you're still young, Ketan.
Thanks. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So, when I was 10 or 11, how about that? When I was like 10, 11, 12, I used to, all of my other friends, this is back in New Jersey, we used to get the Sunday paper, right? So it used to be this big stack of a Sunday paper, right? That was how we get through the coupons. Your parents would dig through coupons in there. There's that sports section, there's the comics, and then there's the real estate section. So I used to go through the real estate section. This is in New Jersey back in the early 80s, believe it or not. So that's where my passion came from, real estate. And I used to share that story with all of my clients. And because I did that, they related to me. They knew that, hey, I have a genuine passion for real estate. So that's one way of doing it, is to say, hey, you know what, this is something that's born in me at the end of the day, and you can tell them that, hey, you know what, this is what I enjoy doing. I love looking at houses. Even today, even when I was younger, I used to draw floor plans just for the heck of it. So that's how my real estate experience has branched out. So you're welcome to use that, Rakesh, if you want. You have a great story as well. So, so there's certain advantages of, kind of using your history to do this. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It definitely helps, Ketan. One other thing, I know a lot of people wants to like meet in person, and most of them are for lunch and stuff. So what do you suggest on those kind of things?
So for lunch, you can still do that today. Now a little bit more than 6 months ago or 9 months ago. Obviously, it's a business expense, and it is more casual. So one thing I used to do is I used to never meet. I used to meet my clients at my house, believe it or not. And the reason I did that was because they felt comfortable. They didn't feel like, oh, it's an office environment. So I used to work out of home. My office was my home. So luckily, we had an office right in the front on our older homes, on our other houses, and they got an idea to see my house, which I was open about. So I didn't mind doing that. That's because that's how I built my relationships with every one of my clients. Is they came to my house and they saw my house, and we will sit down and I'll do this home buyer seminar, and then after that. So yeah, it just depends on whatever your profile is, whatever works for you to do this. Nowadays, just take your iPad with you and plug in the numbers, plug in the criteria while you're having lunch with them. Doesn't hurt, whatever makes it work, right? That's the best way to explain it.
Yeah, helps, Ketan. Thanks.
All right, guys.
One question regarding appraisal. So nowadays, because of the prices being so insane, buyers, even first-time buyers, are putting like 50K above.
Yeah.
The problem the question that I have is, so the appraiser will actually reach out to you to see if you want to schedule some time for them to go to that particular property. Now, would you at this time forward the appraiser a CMA of that property? Would that be legal or would that be frowned upon?
No, so Abhay, so tell me again one more time. So you're representing the buyers, right?
So let's assume it's a 100K house. The buyer put 130K, right?
Okay.
The appraiser is going to go now and going to go and check the house out and appraise that particular house.
Correct. Yeah.
With your clients, have looked at what the properties around that neighborhood have been going for the past 30 days. And you came up with the fact that, yeah, if you want to put a number, you might want to go 30K above the asking price. But now, can you provide that CMA
to the appraiser? Yeah, the appraiser is really not going to talk to you. He's going to talk to the listing agent and say, hey, can you send me the comps that you're using for the price basis? Once in a while, they might reach out to you. Now, keep in mind, even though personally, I think CMAs have zero relevance in today's market. But at the end of the day, that is still one of the requirements that you are required to do is provide a CMA for your clients. Always remember that, no matter what. The last
so
thing
it's okay for me to provide it to the appraiser if he's reached out to me.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. And here's the thing: the appraiser should have the MLS information just like you do. But if he still wants to know what you're using your basis on, yeah, you can always share that with him. It's just not going to help in today's market, but yeah, you could.
Okay, good to know.
More than welcome. All right, guys. Hopefully this was helpful. So we do have homework for next week, right? We talked about that, or not next week. For next time around, we are looking for. I lost it. Where did I lose it? Housing bubble. Yeah, what is defined as a housing bubble? That is your homework for next week. I'm going to send you the presentation because I want you guys to have this as part of your, and hopefully everybody's created a real estate marketing bootcamp folder on your computer and just keep adding these presentations. So the reason is because I want you guys to continue referencing these documents, these presentations, so you have basically a storybook as we go through this. All right. Wednesday, unless my sore throat, if it gets worse, I might have to reschedule it, but I'm going to try not to. All right, guys. And we will see you guys on Wednesday. I don't know which topic I'm going to be shifting the topics. Today's topic was supposed to be more towards business cards and all that stuff. I may have Rachel do that one on Wednesday for us. All right. So hopefully this helps. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll
Thank you,
see you
Ketan.
guys Wednesday.
Thank you, Ketan.
Thank you,
Bye, guys.
Ketan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Ketan.
Thanks, Ketan.
Bye.